What's up, beautiful souls? Shout out to our sponsors, limitlesslivingmd.com. Your health is your greatest wealth. And on Limitless Living, we literally provide you with pure pharmaceutical grade peptides delivered straight to your house with everything you need to get started on your path to your best life, to optimizing your health. Now, there's peptides for everything. Peptides are amino acids, which are like signals, light bulbs, light signals that go off and start certain reactions to start helping you, in certain cases, get ripped, muscular, building muscles. Semaglutide, one of our best sellers. The problem with most people doing semaglutide is they're on way too big of a doses. But when you start at the right dose and you go slow and low, we're having amazing results. People are not only losing up to 15% of their body weight, they're improving their diabetes, but most importantly, they're improving their self-esteem. And so if that interests you, you should schedule a peptide provider consult with our expert who can literally help you get the right dose and the right peptide delivered straight to your house. Now, one of my favorites is every single morning I've been doing NAD in the muscle injections with insulin needles, and it just gives me pure, clean energy to get my day started, better than coffee. I start my day with a little bit of NAD, and we're continuously updating our site with all different types of peptides. So check it out, limitlesslivingmd.com. Use the code Dr. Lee, DRLEE, for 15% off pure pharmaceutical grade peptides delivered straight to your house. And if you don't know where to get started, I highly suggest scheduling a peptide provider consult. We'll shoot up the link on here. All you got to do is click the link, and it'll take you directly to scheduling a meeting with our peptide provider expert who can get you on the right dose and get you started on the right peptides. What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Today, I'm going to do a solo podcast shoot. I'm going to answer a bunch of questions, so like a live Q&A session, and I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible that were asked in my online community, the Eternal Life Tribe online on School. So it's always a joy to be able to share some of the things and downloads that I've received along the way. But before we get started, let's go ahead and set the frequency. By the love of original eternal source, consciousness field, we have come, setting a barrier of love on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual plane around this podcast on all dimensions and all timelines. By the truth of original eternal source consciousness field, we stand. By the power of original eternal source consciousness field, we fly. By the way of original eternal source, go I. By the grace of original eternal source consciousness field, I now sanctify and renew this podcast as under the divine protector of the original eternal life founders races for the highest good, joy, and abundance of each and every single person who may be listening today, in this lifetime and the one to come. We give gratitude in advance, avalanches of God's love, joy, meaningful relationships. Abundance is pouring and circulating and flowing and flooding in our lives. All of our goals, needs, and desires are now being met instantaneously by divine infinite intelligence, for we are one with God, and God is one with all. Thy kingdom, queendom is coming now. Thy will is now being done in this podcast as it is in the highest heavens. Taisha into Doe, Taisha into Doe, Taisha into Doe, spoken as it is stated, and so it is done. Rashi, Christ, around us now. All right, so let's dive right in. I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible today. So first question, do you recommend that somebody do semen retention for men for a period of time during any of your protocols for 12-stranded DNA activation? It's a really good question. So semen is, if you want to call it, a fluid that is your Jing energy, your creative force. And the semen is connected to the cerebral spinal fluid, which literally bathes the spine, the throne of God. And when the cerebral spinal flows up into the brain, and it literally bathes the brain in the ventricles. So all of these fluids are interconnected, and the semen is the strength, the power, the Jing, creative force energy On a physical level, yes, you can see that it has a lot of proteins, nutrition, things like that, right? So that's why when a man releases his semen, okay, that, he feels weaker and he usually falls asleep, right? And so according to Taoist tradition, when you get to a certain age, to retain a man's power, its Jing, its sexual creative force, energy, it is only recommended to release periodically. And so you can look up the Taoist recommendations. When you're like 30 to 40, it's like once or twice a month maximum. Okay. Because the fluid is literally your creative force energy. And if you're not utilizing that creative force to create a baby, you can utilize that creative force through high art sexual tantra techniques, solo or with a partner, to bring that energy up the spine by squeezing your perineum, squeezing your lower abdomen, squeezing your upper abdomen, which shoots the energy from the lower spine, right? Remember that Jing energy is interconnected to the spine, to your heart, and you can think about whatever it is you want to create, a courageous heart, a new company, a new earth, and bring that energy up all the way to your brain and think about whatever it is you want to create. This does not mean you can still have multiple orgasms, okay? The multi-orgasmic man. So you can, when you're at the verge of orgasm, you squeeze your perineum, you hold your energy, and you still have the orgasm, but you don't ejaculate. So you separate the orgasm from the ejaculation and you retain your Jing energy. Then you utilize the breath to lift that energy into your heart and your third eye, and you see, visualize, and feel whatever it is that you want to create. And at that moment where attention goes, energy flows and it grows. Then you see that energy on the out breath, on the in breath, bring it up, and on the out breath, spread it into your auric field. And literally, that energy, the most powerful creative force on the planet, if it's not being utilized to create a baby, you can use it to create a new earth, to create a new company, to create whatever it is you intend to create. And that energy will literally spread into your auric field, and your auric field will start attracting whatever it is that you intend. So all energy can be transmuted and moved and utilized in a creative way for whatever it is you want to create. And some of the most powerful force on the planet is your Jing energy, your semen. It's literally food for your nervous system. Let me repeat that. Your semen is food for your nervous system. The blood and the semen are interconnected. To form blood, it takes a lot of energy. So what happens when you like losing blood or losing semen? It's all interconnected. Your nervous system gets weak. And how does that manifest? In a weak nervous system, anxiety. In a weak nervous system, depression. Right? And how does that manifest in your life, however, is a content life that is not powerful. It's not full of power. And so semen retention is recommended for men not to release more often than not. Now, I want to take it to so it depends on your age, right? There's a different amount of release recommendations according to Taoist perspectives, depending on your age, and you can look that up. Now, I want to take it to the metaphysical. So whatever's happening on the physical is also happening on the metaphysical. So all energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So when a man is watching porn or a man is simply releasing his Jing, his sperm, with no intention, with no direction, that energy, the most powerful creative force on the planet, is released. But where's it going? You see, there's been an elaborate energy suck system, a vampirical energy suck system based upon the most powerful creative force on the planet. And oftentimes this energy is being utilized to feed off-planet vampirical energies, which have set up excessive, extensive feeding tubes for this most powerful. And that's why, there's been this whole kind of systemic movement towards making sexual energy lustful or making sexual energy sinful. And why would they go to a certain extent to make it such? Because it's so powerful when utilized correctly. It's the most powerful creative force on the planet, right? And sex is beautiful. Sex is divine. Why did God make sex feel good if it's bad? It's not. It's beautiful. It's powerful when utilized with the right intention, with the right setting, sacred energy exchange sex. So do I recommend semen retention? Yeah, I do recommend it as a practice. I recommend learning about the high art of Tantra. I recommend learning how to utilize your creative force energy to strengthen your nervous system. There's so many different techniques that you can utilize to do that. And yeah, only kind of releasing with intention when it's a choice and you know why you're releasing and you know what energy you're releasing into and what intention you're releasing into to be able to be the master of your manifestation and materialization, co-creator of your own reality and your own hologram, right? And one of those keys is to learn how to master your Jing energy or your creative force and to strengthen your nervous system through these techniques. Now, the second question comes, how does one know when you need to bust down the door, don't give up, or simply go through another without resistance when on a path to financial freedom? Or discerning if that challenge is required or if it is not the path. So the path to financial freedom has to do with self-worth. Okay. And where I'm at currently is increased self-worth, increased net worth. Money chases value. So the right question to ask on your path to financial freedom. And why do people even want money anyway? People think they want money for whatever reasons, right? But actually what they really want is freedom. Love, for there to be love, there has to be a choice. There's no force and source. For when you have sufficient funds and finances and money, you have the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and you're not limited. Your idea is not limited by finances. Right? So what people really want is freedom, and money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies who you are. So the path to financial freedom is actually the path to self-liberation as well. They're interconnected: self-worth, financial net worth. Because when you value yourself, money chases value, right? And so many of us have been programmed to believe that we're not worthy, that we have to do something to receive love. When we were little kids, that little kid inside thought that it had to be perfect. It had to get 100%. And it was not worthy of love unless it achieved something or looked a certain way. But when we start deprogramming those things and realize that we are valuable and we all deserve everything we desire because we are source energy and we exist as source energy, the sacred law of one, right? Then our service becomes a noun, our state of being. We are the service, our state of being. Your presence is a gift. Your presence is your value. Your value is your presence. And just by being present, at one with all, and attached to anything, money chases value. So then the opportunities that are in resonance with your authentic being start to chase you. And then when you add value to others just by being yourself in some creative endeavor, money starts chasing you. So the question here is, though, how do you know when to try to bust down the door versus when to give up, or how to move on the way to financial freedom? And so I think for a long time, there's been this kind of programming, especially for males and alpha males, of hustle culture. You got to go get it. You got to go get it. You got to go get it. You have to bust down. You have to hustle. You have to hustle. But I think we're transitioning from a 3D model, right? Because that's 3D. When you're creating from the 3D, right? There's competition. There's need for greed. There's a linear, limited resources. You got to go. You got to get it. You have to. You need to, because there's not enough for everybody. But now we're shifting now in a state of transition of business, right, to another dimension where it's, I don't have to do anything. I get to. I'm blessed to. And how do you know when you're in a rush, you're usually in a state of lack? I have to. And it's programming. You don't have to, because you are worthy just because you breathe, because you are source. So transitioning out of that, and when we're calm and we're relaxed and we're taking our time, we're coming from a place of abundance. We don't need to do anything. I choose to. I'm blessed to. And abundance creates more abundance. And abundance is a frequency we can shift into all time. So I would say we don't need to really actually bust down any doors. In fact, when you have an intention, right, do these two things to achieve anything. Number one, set a pure intention. Intention is a magnetic frequency that exists between matter. So your intention, 5 to 15 feet in all directions, your heart is a magnet. Whatever you intend, you're going to attract the right opportunity, the right person, the right podcast, the right teacher, the right book at exactly the right time if you hold that steady intention. Now you're going to come, when you have an intention for the liberation of all sentient beings or healing centers around the world, or whatever you intend, right? You're going to come across what appears to be a door. But it's not. Everything is a lesson, a blessing, and an opportunity. So when you come across what seems to be an obstacle or a failure, you don't have to bust it down. You take a step back. You breathe. The doing comes from being, and you simply come into a state of being. Alpha brainwaves dropping from beta to alpha, and you drop into the present moment, and then you're able to see clearly. And when you're in alpha and theta, and your higher self can drop in, what's the lesson? What's the blessing? What's the opportunity? Right? And so you take a step back and you're able to observe that what appeared to be an obstacle, it's not. I had to learn this lesson right now. I had to learn healthy boundaries right now. I had to learn how to communicate in this type of way right now, in a more gentle way. I had to learn about leadership right now. And if I didn't learn this lesson right now, later on down the road, this project would not have worked. So I need to learn what is the lesson, the blessing, and the opportunity. And I take a step back and breathe. And once I realize what the lesson is, okay, cool. One step back. You don't have to bust through the door. 2 steps forward. Oh, I had to adjust my plan right now. And then you keep moving forward one step at a time. Every day you pray or connect with your higher self and you ask, whatever your intention is, what are 2 or 3 things that I should do today? And whatever your practice is to quiet your mind, the breath work, the yoga, whatever it is. And then at the end, you receive a download from your higher self. These are the 2, 3 things. Email this person, do these things, and you keep making progress 1, 2 steps at a time. And whenever you hit a barrier, you don't have to bust it down. Take a step back, breathe. What's the lesson, blessing, opportunity? Okay, cool. Adjust and keep moving towards whatever your intention is. And as long as you don't give up and you hold a steady intention and you learn the lessons, you will achieve your goal because you are limitless and you deserve everything you desire. And then along the path, you'll start gaining self-mastery because you'll realize in order to achieve your goal, you have to learn how to be patient. You have to learn how to work with other people. You have to learn how to be an effective communicator, and all of these things and reflections will pop forward. So it's not actually the path to financial freedom, it's actually the path to self-mastery, right? And so they're interconnected. And money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies who you are. And so really the goal of all of this on the path to freedom and financial freedom is who you become. Because when you leave this earth suit, this beautiful, amazing water bag, you can't take with you your money. But what you can take with you is who you become, your character, right? So the path of mastery and financial freedom are interconnected. Master one thing and you'll master everything. And one thing that I really recommend mastering in this life, or learning and putting an energy into learning, is how to breathe, because the mind will follow the breath, or the breath will follow the mind. The mind will follow the breath, or the breath will follow the mind. And if you learn how to breathe, the mind will follow the breath, and you'll drop into the present moment, and you'll have clear alpha brain waves where you can concentrate, and your higher self is always aligned and connected, and your superconscious mind will begin leading you through intuition and direct cognition. And it cannot lead you astray. The mind thinks it knows, but your intuition, your heart, your superconscious mind knows. And it'll be completely against everything you've been programmed to think that you want or need. Right? It will lead you on your highest evolutionary potential, who you become, your character, because you can take that with you when you leave this earth suit. So, okay, cool. So here's another question. Information that we get in a heart protocol, how do we translate them? From your experience with yourself and others, what is the language of the soul? Yeah. So what makes the heart protocol unique in the middle of a psychedelic revolution is the point of connection, right? Because plants are great. They've been here a long time and they have a lot of things and wisdom to teach us. But your soul over soul and avatar inner Cristo self has also been here a long time. In fact, when you go up the ladder, Jacob's ladder on your DNA strand, your Rishi self, there's a point of direct connection to all that is. It has access to every single dimension across all universes and all galaxies. And that's what's open during a heart protocol session. And our direct point of connection is not a plant, but it's directly to your higher self, which cannot hurt you. It only has your best interest, highest evolutionary potential in mind. And it knows what's step one, what's door one, what's door two, what's door three, what's too much information. Cool thing is you can also record it into bring back a transcript, a multidimensional soul transcript. So I think the question here was though, how do we translate it, right? Well, I think one way is to type out your transcript, right? So it's not an accident, whatever you say in a heart protocol ceremony. It's, perhaps the clearest connection that your soul has ever had to your physical vessel. And so whatever it shows you first, it's not an accident. If you repeat something 5 times, it's not an accident. Out of all the potentials on all of the universes, that's what it wanted to show you. So when you type it out, you're bringing it to the physical, right? You're making it real. So listening to the music softly in the background, typing out your transcript, then having an integration phone call and creating a soul action plan based upon whatever it is. Now, everything's information, the way you're breathing, however many times you repeat something, the tone of your voice, the rhythm of your voice, it's all information. And so there's many different techniques on how to interpret the voice of your soul. But I think the beauty of it is the point of the heart protocol is to strengthen your direct intuitive connection to your higher self, right? So that you don't need anything outside of you to strengthen the neural pathways and to continuously recognize and continuously get to know the voice of your soul. Now, everybody's soul and oversoul communicates with them in different ways. For example, mine sometimes, especially for very, very advanced souls, like it's very subtle. They're not going to slap you on the head and tell you what to do because you have free will choice. It's going to be like a subtle nudge, like sometimes a visceral, like sometimes when my soul is trying to get my attention, it'll give me like a feeling in my body, right? It'll nudge me, right? And so you come to have this relationship with your higher self, and that's really my life's work, is to learn, is this the voice of my mind? And it's easy. The voice of the mind is noisy. It's either the voice of the mind or the voice of the soul. The voice of the mind is noisy. It goes back and forth. There's no conclusion. You'll be like thinking about something for 5 minutes and you're like, there's no conclusion, right? Can be stressful. And then so yeah, and you just utilize your tools, your practices. You go for the run, you do the hot yoga, you do the 12 strand DNA techniques, right? And you quiet your mind. And from that place, the voice of your soul is a direct knowing. It's a direct cognition. It's a direct knowing, a direct cellular knowing. And you have to learn how to trust yourself. And just like anything, nobody taught us about that nudge, right? Because if you don't trust that voice it's not a voice, it's a knowing. Within 5 seconds, your mind's going to come in and tell you all the reasons not to, right? So it's a practice of learning and communicating with your soul. It's a relationship that you cultivate. And at the end of the day, if you learn how to decipher the voice of your soul versus the voice of your mind, you cannot go astray in life because your higher self, your soul, your superconscious mind only has your highest evolutionary potential in mind. It has access to information beyond space or time. So utilize your techniques to do that. Okay. So you also asked, do you show up regularly in people's ceremonies? I had 2 heart protocols and still figuring out how to interpret the information I got, including your presence in both. I don't show up regularly, but what I will say is, our all of our higher selves are up there communicating, and so my intention and my most story that I'm creating is the most epic love story ever written, the return of at least 1 billion souls back to source, and it's starting to unfold that way because I'm a co-creator, writer, and producer, and so our higher selves are all interconnected beyond space or time, and they're up there, and if there's a similar intention and a similar mission, then sometimes our higher selves will connect in the invisible world. And before anything ever happens on the physical, it always happens in the metaphysical, in the invisible world before it becomes physical. So we're up there communicating. And sometimes if there's synergy, sometimes if there's activations we can share with each other, sometimes if there's different roles that we can help each other with, then we're up there communicating. And that happens occasionally, not often, but every once in a while. And yeah, once again, just keep connecting to your higher self, because as soon as it's aligned on the physical plane, it will happen. Crystal, I would like to try microdosing on mushroom, but I have never done so. Do you have any recommendations? So, yeah, microdosing our mushroom psilocybin friends. They're very intelligent. They've been here a long time. And just on a scientific level, they can help people taper off psych medicines. Sometimes they can help people with creativity. Sometimes they can help people with mood, right? And so our mushroom friends are all interconnected. And watch Fantastic Fungi by Paul Stam. It's very intelligent, interconnected, like an underground internet network, right? And as below, so above. So what's happening below, how they're all interconnected. The trees communicate through, the fungi, the mushrooms. Well, our brain, neural pathways, right? Mushrooms, some studies are showing that mushrooms can help with forming new ways of thinking, new neural pathways, right? And so, yeah, there's different kind of microdose recommendations. My favorite, the one that I feel like is the best on the entire planet, is a combination of 143 herbs and adaptogens with a microdose of psilocin. It's called Neuroplast. You can't really find it anywhere though, but we're going to start carrying it pretty soon. So stay tuned for samuelbleemd.com. We'll probably start carrying it on there within a month, but can't really get it anywhere. You have to know someone to get that. Now there's the Stamets protocol, which is, look it up, Stamets protocol. You can grow your own. I know in Oregon and Colorado, they've legalized, you can find a provider who can do it for you. Shout out to my friend who has a company called Bright Future. I'm not sure if they're selling that or not right now, but if you just put the intention out there that you want to microdose, yeah, you'll find someone who will connect you and hook you up. And microdosing can be helpful for all those things that I mentioned. So I think there's also a company in Topanga called Frequency, which my friend introduced me to, which, I think they grow their mushrooms in a harmonic sound garden, right? So yeah, just keep your intention. Once again, have your intention, and you'll find the right one, and you'll know. Trust yourself, and you find it. Tune into the energy, and you'll know. Okay, let's see here. Okay, please help me understand the concept of marriage and having babies. Is this part of our destiny? So that's a really good question. I want to share a story. Okay. Yeah, in this story, it's in the New Testament. You can look it up. The Pharisees are trying to trick Jesus. And so, the pastors at that time, the Pharisees come to Jesus and say, "Hey, teacher," right? At the time of the resurrection, which is actually what is when you interpret it, it's reincarnation, which is now. The dead in Christ will rise first. So they were talking about this time we're living in now. Okay. They say, according to the Mosaic law, this guy was married to this woman. The guy passed away. Now, the Mosaic law of Moses says the next brother has to marry the woman. Now, he passed away. Then the next brother came and he passed away. 7 times the 7 brothers came and married the same girl, but they all passed away. And the question was, at the time of the reincarnation, which is now, whose wife will she be? Right? And you know what Jesus says? He said, this is my interpretation. You guys are silly, man. You're asking the wrong question. At the time of the reincarnation or the resurrection, which is now, you're going to be like angels. Remember, the 4th, 5th, and 6th strand is the angelic mind, the 6th DNA strand. Nobody is going to be given and taken in marriage, but you're going to be like the angels. So, for a long period of time, when we were living in the 3D, like marriage was an institution created. And why in the hell would you write a piece of paper and give it to a government, a ruling official, so that they have authority, and you sign your pieces of paper and take it to a court? Unless you believe in the court, unless you believe in the government, unless you believe in that, right? So for me, like, marriage is a beautiful thing. Some can be a beautiful thing, but there's coming a time right now where we're starting to realize that love is a continuous free will choice. Love is a continuous free will choice. Love is a continuous free will choice. In fact, if there's no choice, there's no love. Now, 2 people can choose to pledge to love each other and to only be committed to one person for the rest of their life for this incarnation. That's beautiful. And like when one soul comes in, right? through electromagnetic fission becomes 12. And oftentimes they come in with a soul contract to meet certain soul partners, twin flames, if you want to call it, a part of the same soul, which can help them, trigger the shit out of them. When it's good, it's really good. And then all of a sudden it triggers them, right? And all this karmic stuff starts coming up. And it's the greatest reflection and mirror. And once again, remember, the invisible world doesn't necessarily care about your comfort. It cares about your evolution, who you become. And that's actually why male and female were first created. To help each other catalyze their upper stranded DNA for ascension. The female had a magnetic advantage. The male had an electric advantage. Electric attracts magnetic, yoni, right? Lingam, right? And then when you come together through sacred high art practices, you can share DNA codes, intertwine spines, raise the kundalini, shoot out the core, get source codes, and literally the 12 and the 6, right? There's a very specific science to this, catalyze each other. And now you can catalyze each other through high arts tantric practices, also by triggering each other. It's the greatest mirror, it's the greatest reflection. And when you trigger, it's an opportunity to look within and clear the DNA, clear the karma, clear the trauma. Now, there's a very specific science during the third seeding why male and female were created. It was to help each other catalyze each other's DNA strands. Before that, there was no male and female. So the whole point of male and female sacred energy exchange was to help each other ascend, to catalyze their embodiment of their soul. That's what Jesus was saying. Like at the time of the reincarnation, there's going to be a certain level of consciousness where you're going to realize that it's literally about love and helping each other become the best version of each other, and literally stabilize and maintain high embodiment of your soul and oversoul, right? It's a continuous free will choice. Now, there's some birds in nature and things like that that choose one mate and stay with that one mate. That's beautiful, and you can do that. But there always needs to be, this sacred space of continuous free will choice and transparent communication. And I think we're evolving into that day and age that Jesus talked about, where love is a continuous free will choice. And then, through all of these relationships, what you think is your twin flame, there's only one. Well, it's a constant evolution of frequency. Now, when one soul decides that, hey, man, I'm going for it, I'm going to evolve as best as I can, and one soul in the relationship says, no, I'm scared. I don't want to look at my trauma. I want to spiritually bypass, and I want to act like nothing's wrong, and I just want to be comfortable. Well, there comes a mismatch here, and that's okay. A transparent, sacred space to communicate and say, hey, thank you, man. Thank you for triggering the shit out of me, growing with me, loving me. And like sometimes the door opens and a person comes in and you help each other and you grow together, trigger the shit out of each other. And then you're like, and the frequencies shift and you're like, okay, that was wonderful, wonderful. Continuous free will choice. Thank you. You close the door and you continue to evolve. And eventually, as you do that, eventually you reach this place of maturity where you can come to a point where you realize, I don't own anyone, nobody owns me. And why would I send a piece of paper into the government, which is trying to control everything, which is trying to, you know? So I think we're in this place of interesting kind of development and conscious evolution of our definition of marriage. Now, if you want to sign an energetic agreement between you and God and your witnesses all around you, that's beautiful. That's a celebration of love, celebration of commitment, right? So that's one perspective. Now, having babies, make no mistake about it right now, there's babies, ancient souls who've never been born before. It's like an important inflection point in humanity's history where these ancient souls and spirits are lining up, waiting to be born on Earth right now. Technologies that were never available before, which can help liberate a soul, they're available, and it's like the final end conflict drama and the great kind of love story epic conclusion. The climax in Avatar is coming from Mother Earth, and these souls and spirits are lined up, and there's a choice. There's a choice. Sometimes you have a contract, but remember, you can even change contracts. You have continuous free will choice. There's no force in source, right? And so, yeah, these babies coming in, they're coming in hot. They're coming in like a fajita. They're online. Their souls are already online. And because so many mothers and fathers have done a lot of karmic clearing, and they have such high DNA strand activation, a lot of these babies are coming in are completely online, and these babies are the future, right? And so, but it's a contract, right? And so, oftentimes, sometimes they'll hang out and they'll let you know that they're coming, that they choose you as mom or choose you as a father, right? And then it's up to you to say yes. And allow and let that happen and listen, because they are our teachers and they're coming in hot. And they're the ones that are going to help create the new earth. We're just literally setting the foundation. So, yeah, but like if you want to change the world, change yourself, right? If you want to attract a certain type of partner for marriage, write down every quality you want in your partner, but become that. When you become those qualities, you will attract that. We attract what we are. If you want to attract a certain type of baby, you got to become that. Yeah, so it's all interconnected. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Dr. Sam, your approaches to human healing and evolving link to other approaches and modalities and leaders. For example, spiritual leaders interview and discuss with each other on podcasts. The Gaia group, remaining structured religious groups such as Ethiopian Christianity, Russian Orthodox, Muslim, Buddhism, Amish, AI escalation, implementation. How do these practices dance harmoniously with the evolution of the human species and the planet? Okay, so remember, there were the 12 original celestial human tribes. All human beings have the morphogenetic field or imprint to reactivate through sound, light, and frequency and symbols their 12-stranded DNA. Now, there were 12 CDT plates and 12 original celestial human tribes seeding three on Earth, right? Their DNA was key coded for certain stargates. Now, every tribe had a Magi Grail king. They were protectors of what we call a CDT plate, Cloister Duratura plate, which are real small pre-Atlantean plates with the true history of humanity. I mean, down to the detail, like all of these things, right? It completely, once you start, really listening to the true history, all these dots and pieces start connecting. You're like, wow, okay, wow. That's the true history and the true ascension teachings, that you are who you've been looking for, and the specific techniques, such as the ones that I've created in the online 12-strand DNA activation program, are from the CDT plates, the true history. Now, all religions, Buddhism, Christianity, Russian Orthodox, Muslim, Buddhism, are derivatives and of the 12 original celestial human tribes. The 12 biblical tribes are for a copycat of the 12 original celestial human tribes. Now, the true ascension teachings are there. Now, humanity has been so programmed into believing that they need something outside of themselves, into following some type of dogma, that when they hear these true teachings, it's difficult for them to accept and realize that they are who they've been looking for. The inner Christos is within you. You don't need anything outside of you. But once you really start giving the CDD plates a listen, and like you start realizing all the dots start connecting, all of these religions, right? The legions come from the 12 original celestial human legions, right? And 80% truth, 20% distortion. Okay. And is it all interconnected? It's all interconnected. And I'm not condemning religion. If you can find the golden thread of unconditional love and non-judgment, and follow that thread, then yeah, you can find a beautiful frequency. But yeah, you know what happens to humans over a period of time, right? Over a period of time, things get distorted. And that's what's happened with religions. And that's why I always say religion will not survive the internet. Are they all interconnected? Absolutely. But they're all coming from the CDT place, the true original spiritual teachings, where spiritual science and spirituality and science are one. And this is the science of source. And the true ascension teachings in the history of Mother Earth is found on the Cloister Duratura plates, 12 original celestial human tribes. Everything else is kind of derivative and 80% truth, 20% distortion of these original teachings. Okay, you mentioned that there are certain entities who have detached themselves from source. How can that be possible if everything in the universe is a part of source? Please elaborate. Thank you. So that's a really good question. When I say detach themselves from source, right, they are still source. Everything is source. The source of all energy, the source of all particles, the source of all love, the source of all joy. There's only one source. So everything is a part as existing as source, okay? But there's certain time matrices or certain universes where source allows free will choice. Now, there's a direct connection point between 8 and 5 chakra, the upper heart, and 5 Catharagua, what's called the Azure, which is a direct connection point to source. There's literally a direct connection point to source. And for eternal life matrices, they follow a 12 universal tree of life. Between the 8 and 5 grids, in Jewish mysticism, they call it Sephora. There is a direct connection point. Well, long story short, there was a collective through repeated free will choice, Giovanni Collective. Their children are called Metatron. right, who sent in more than 51% of their quanta, their energy, and digressed through free will choice. It digressed. It wanted to be its own creator. It wanted to try its own mathematical system. It started blaming source for certain things, and it said, hey, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to take the 12th grade and utilizing our knowledge of first creation physics, we're going to take the 12 points for and the 8th grade, Katara grade out. We're going to collapse it into a base 10. And there's a whole history on why this happened. Okay. And they did. And so now the base 10 mathematical system, right? The direct connection to point to source is off because the 12 and the 8 are gone and it's a 10. So they collapsed it. And so it's a little off center. And it spirals at a mathematical sequence which consumes energy to create energy, which eventually will run out of the energy, which eventually will quote unquote die. And that's why you see in the Bible, not even that long ago, they were living to 800-900 years. And now what? We're living 80 years, right? So everything is running out of energy eventually and quote unquote dying. But death is inorganic, the original eternal life code. So I guess what I'm saying is they are, if you want to say, cut off from the source of all energy in this matrix, in this universal matrix. They are still source, part of source, but they're cut off from that direct connection point to the source, right? And so eventually they will return to source. They're still source, still sacred, as black hole space does return with particles, with no incarnational memory of its existence. Still source, but cut off from source through the source of all energy. Still a part of source, bathing in source, but cut off from the direct connection point from the source of all energy. Okay. What makes someone stay in a toxic partner relationship even though they are suffering? Great question. So when that sperm and that egg met, okay, there's 7 to 11 generations of trauma and karma, which are passed on. From the ages of 0 to 7, the child is literally watching their mom and dad and inheriting the exact same patterns of receiving love, exact same subconscious apps as their parents. And this is why the Bible says passed on from generation to generation to generation to generation. Now every family usually eventually has a brave soul, sometimes the youngest in the family. They call them the black sheep, and they're chosen. All the DNA is interconnected, all the karma is interconnected to choose to come into that family, to break the ancestral, generational trauma, karma loops. They're literally loops. Loops in the brain, same pattern, and it's your DNA which literally projects. So you have your parents' DNA, and so you're projecting your hologram. The DNA projects your hologram. So you're going to look for the exact same trauma bond that you had watching your parents, and you're going to attract the exact same type of guys, exact same type of female, and this continues. And you're asking me, why do people stay in these things over and over and over and over again? That's a great question. You asking me, I'm asking the same question. Because evolve or repeat, evolve or repeat. Unless you clear that distortion in your DNA, which is projecting your hologram, and the first step of that is to step out of victim mode, to take a step back and notice the pattern. The first step of change is awareness. So as soon as you become aware of the pattern and you're willing to do the work, the internal work, to clear the DNA, to clear the familial trauma, to clear the loop, and this has to do with self-love, right? You come to a certain point because here's a story. Like, let's just say, like, you're hungry. Everybody needs love. Everybody needs love, connection, right? So when you're hungry for love, because you don't love yourself, you're not doing daily self-love practices, right? Well, guess what? You're gonna go back to your ex, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm willing to eat that leftover pizza. It's good enough for me. I'm hungry. I need love. I'll stay in this relationship even though I know I'm compromising, even though I know I'm being abused, even though I'll stay because there's a form of love. There's something that I'm receiving that I need, which I'm not complete in myself." And so you continue to stay in that relationship, even though your soul is telling you, like, hey, you know what? This is not for you. You quiet that voice. People continue to stay in that loop for lifetimes, literally for lifetimes, until you start realizing the pattern and you take a step back and you say, no, I deserve what I desire. And that has to do with self-value, self-worth, and self-love. I refuse to be in an abusive relationship. I refuse to be in a relationship where I'm not seen. I refuse to be in a relationship where my truth is not welcome. I refuse to be in a relationship where I'm accused of things that are not true. And that has to do with self-love and setting healthy boundaries. People think like love is like always saying yes. No, it's not. It's the ability to say no. Step into your power, step into self-love. And that has to do with deserving how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. You ask most people, like, do you deserve to be happy? And they're like, I don't know. Yes, you do. And until you believe that, you change your thoughts, words, and attitudes into that belief system. You can continue to loop because that's what we watched our parents do. Right? So you realize self-perception, self-value, self-worth that I know. Why would I go eat a half-eaten pizza, leftover pizza, when I am a full, whole, extra large, all the toppings, fresh Italian New York water, holy living water, complete pizza? And when you start seeing yourself that way, talking to yourself that way, treating yourself that way, you refuse to settle. And you continuously work on yourself to become more patient, more kind, more loving, more powerful in your power. And that's not easy to do because some of these deep familial traumas and karmas are so deeply ingrained. And people oftentimes don't have the courage to look at it and to do the deep inner work and to take a pause and to feel what we reveal, we feel, we heal, to feel it, to take responsibility for it, and to go to the therapy, to start doing the work, to start associating with friends who call you out, who check your blind spots. Instead of feeling criticized, it's like, thank you, you're trying to love me by helping me, right? And evolve or repeat. So first step of change is awareness. You become aware and you start realizing, I'm going to love myself so much. I'm going to keep it so real with myself. I see this pattern and I take acceptance and responsibility for this pattern. What is the lesson that I need to learn? Oh, do the inner child healing work. No Bad Parts, Richard Schwartz, Family Constellations, right? You start doing the therapy, start realizing, oh, my inner child was traumatized from watching my parents and I inherited that. And you start giving your inner child the attention and the love and the forgiveness that you need to reintegrate that part of yourself. And then once you heal that aspect of yourself, your DNA becomes healed and you heal your lineage, your ancestral lineage, and you're no longer projecting that into your hologram, the wounded aspect of yourself. Then you'll start attracting a new partner, a new type of partner. And you continuously evolve your frequency and clear your DNA until you come into that knowing that I don't need anybody or anything outside of myself. From that place of wholeness, I'm good. I'm whole. I don't need anyone. Lack creates more lack. If you go into a relationship saying, I need that person, you're going to create more lack. Lack creates more lack. It's going to be codependent. But when you come from that place of wholeness, I am perfect, healthy, healed, whole, and complete. There's nothing that I need. I'm good. Even if it's just me, I'm the Bonnie to my own Clyde, 10 out of 10. You a dime. You are who you've been looking for the whole time. Then wholeness, abundance creates more abundance. And you start attracting that type of person into your field because you've become it. And we attract what we are. And you deserve everything you desire. I'm here through the divine will of creation, purpose with the protection and preservation of our celestial being spirit, as well as corporeal manifestation of itself for our needs. What do I need to do to enlist your help on a personal level without fear or refraction? Ask and it will be given to you, right? The worst that anything can happen is someone will say no. And always remember, you don't need anything outside of yourself. You know, my whole message is take a look within and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. Congrats. You are it. You are source. The source of all wisdom, the source of all energy, the source of all love, the source. You're it. And what I can do is help give you tools and guide you with tools that can help you reconnect with your higher self, that can help rapidly start remembering who you are and clearing trauma. And I can give you the tools, but it's up to you to practice them to quiet your mind and connect to the source of all energy yourself every single day. Right? But ask and you shall receive, right? It doesn't never hurts to ask because you deserve everything you desire. So build that healthy self-esteem and ask. I think that's really the key. But in order to ask, right, you have to feel like you deserve it, because you do. I heard you say in the past that Jesus was not crucified. Please share the truth about what happened to him. Thank you. So if you look at Voyagers 2, written by Asiana Dean, there's a chapter on the three Christs. I also did a podcast about it. One of my early podcasts, I don't know, probably like episode 10, 11, 12, or something like that, where I talk about the three Christs. Okay. And so, long story short, there were J9, the biblical avatar, J12, which nobody really talks about, who was the real, actually 12th level avatar. And then there was a guy named Arahabi. And so, yeah, long story short, it was not the biblical Jesus who was crucified. There was a guy who looked like him called Arahabi, who was given visions to act like Jesus, right? First of all, why would a loving Father God in heaven make his son go on a cross? What kind of example does that set? And give his life as a sacrifice for other people. Think about that. Sacrifice and martyrs. When you come into a certain spiritual frequency or consciousness level, right, you start realizing, you start completely deprogramming savior mode. Savior mode has been so instilled because of this whole crucifixion story that we're supposed to go out there and like convert people and save people. No, we're not. Nobody's coming to save you. Save yourself. So that's the whole crucifixion implant. You don't need to suffer. Spirituality doesn't need to suffer. Right? So there's been a whole kind of conspiracy of changing the record books and things like that to make humanity believe that they need to give their power away to a savior outside of themselves, that they've been saved by a man 2,000 years ago who died on a cross for their sins. Who invented this concept of sin? Sin is saying that you're separate from God. There's nothing you can do to be separate from God. God is the energetic infrastructure that runs through all things and all people, and the truth will set you free. It's about deprogramming all of these things and realizing that you are who you've been looking for. And Jesus' true message was, you are who you've been looking for. The inner Christos is within you. So Arahabi, this poor sucker, was led on visions given to him by fallen angelics, made him believe that he was going to be given, kind of like certain religions do, 1,000 versions when they pass away. They can still give you visions and holographic inserts and make you feel great and make you feel good and promise you things. Holographic inserts, but you are who you've been looking for. Save yourself. Choose yourself. Love yourself. The inner Christos is within, and Jesus' true message said, you will do even greater things than me, because he knew that this wisdom, the universal Christ consciousness, would rise, right? So read the three Christs, or watch the podcast a few episodes ago. Okay. Yeah, I got a rock here. One more question. What is ibogaine? I recently saw this in one of your Instagram posts. Where can one have treatment? So ibogaine is a powerful West African shrub plant. Comes from Africa. I've done a lot of posts on it on my IG. The place that I recommend most is called BEOND, beyond.us. Oh man, just the way they've set it up. It's like a New Earth Healing Center, and the plant is powerful. It has the ability to reset your dopamine receptors, scrub your brain clean of programming to help with childhood trauma, even for human optimization, right? But I think more importantly, just to help you become the more authentic version of yourself. And every once in a while, we all need a good reset, iPhone reset, right? And so that's what I feel like ibogaine does for me. It's a powerful plant from Africa. And a lot of studies are showing, it can be very helpful for addiction, for PTSD, for all different types of statistics, for psychiatric conditions, but not only to mention human optimization. So yeah, check it out, beyond.us. I highly recommend this center so much because of the love. The love is the most powerful healing technology, and the way it's been set up, from staff to food to program, even to the way they administer the medicines, is something that I resonate with and highly recommend. So yeah, look it up. All right, beautiful souls. Love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings. I'll see you next time on the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Have a beautiful week. What's up, beautiful souls? On this solo podcast with yours truly, Dr. Lee, I go over Jesus was not crucified. Then who really was? What is the truth of the crucifixion implant? I go over male semen retention and the power of utilizing the high arts to utilize your semen to create whatever it is you want to create. Is semen retention good? We go over ibogaine and the powerful West African plant, and also how to achieve anything you intend in this lifetime and how to do that with grace and ease. If that resonates with you, hope you tune in this solo episode Q&A session with me. Love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings.